Well, the tile screen looks different. Anyway, greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Crimson Gray. In the last episode, me and our protagonist, John, met a very special lady called Lizzie. And boy, is she special! As the tile screen here clearly demonstrates, if you ask me. She's been stalking our dear old poor boy John for pretty much the entirety of the first episode. And she even went as far as to burn down a tree in the school that a lot of students confessed to, just because he expressed in a conversation to his friends his dislike for said tree. And eventually, stuff like this, along with him leaving concerning notes in his locker and other stuff like that, pretty much inspired him to go and confront Lizzie about what she's been doing, and, well, one thing led to another, and John almost fell to his death off the roof, but ended up getting saved by Lizzie. But the short of it is, well, these two have officially entered some kind of relationship with each other now, and one of the things that they're going to try to do is to, well, get Lizzie therapy. While, John is just doing whatever he can to placate her. Now, what exactly this is going to entail from all this? Well, either tears and heartbreak would be one thing I can think of, or somehow, by some insane miracle, she gets redeemed at the end. Somehow, because I don't think it's going to be there's going to be a middle ground between everything. I think it's just going to be like one thing or the other. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will be something like that. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to keep playing all the way until I get to the very end. So I'm going to go ahead and load my game and do just that. We're starting a brand new day after these two have entered their little co-counseling relationship. Let's see what happens. In the morning, it all seemed even more unbelievable. John sleepwalked through his routine, half certain that he would find out it had all been a dream. But when he arrived at school, he found Lizzie waiting for him by the school entrance. She looked like she could have been waiting there the entire night. Maybe she was! When she saw him, though, her face lit up. John, you're finally here. I've been waiting so long. Like all night long? Good morning. Yes, it's a wonderful morning. I wouldn't really be able to tell. Everything is literally black and white right now. Maybe the clouds look okay. I spent so long too nervous to talk to you, afraid that you would hate me. We had such a nice talk, now I'm barely nervous at all. But my heart, it still goes crazy every time you get near. John. Isn't it horrible that we have to be in different classes? We should be together. Well, I would say in any other circumstance that, you know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder, but in this particular case, I think I would actually have to agree with you. Yes, you two should be together. So, absence doesn't make your heart to grow fonder for him, because that could very well spell bad things for both John and any unfortunate soul that happens to get right between you two. Would you eat lunch with me today? Please? Won't you? She could sound so adorable. Normally he'd be happy to have a girl like her asking to eat lunch together, but... Sure. On the roof again? No! There might be unkind people there, and you might feel sad again. No, I have the perfect place. behind the school somewhere in a little alley space. Where is it? That's a secret! I'll show you at lunchtime. He really wasn't sure how to feel about that. Anxious, maybe? That's what I would feel. For once, John had something to look forward to. Or dread, he wasn't sure. Well, for me, it'd be dread. The minutes seemed to crawl by until it was finally lunchtime. When he went looking for Lizzie, he discovered that she was waiting behind him, completely silent, watching him. Hi, Lizzie. Let's go, let's go! We don't need to go to the cafeteria. This way. Oh, what, did you prepare a boxed lunch for him or something? She practically dragged him away from the school and onto one of the paths in the nearby forest. Well, it's not by the building. Soon they got far enough that they couldn't hear any sounds from the school. Here is perfect. Just perfect. Yep, away from the rest of human civilization where nobody could hear you scream. Perfect. Lizzie faced away from him, giving a soft little laugh. Then suddenly, she whirled around, thrusting something toward him. Lunchbox? A lunchbox. Lunchbox. I worked really hard on this. You have to eat it. You have to. Okay. Thanks, Lizzie. She gave a little squeal and promptly sat down on a small rock. It seemed she had a second lunchbox of her own, but she kept it on her lap until he opened his. So, what did you make? Not chopped liver, I hope. John was braced for a horror show, but to his surprise, it was just normal food. It could be laced with something. It actually looked pretty good. He took a bite, and it tasted good too. John realized that Lizzie was staring at him intensely, as if her life was on the line, so he smiled at her. As far as she's concerned, it probably is. She probably put her heart and soul into making this lunch. It's really good. Yay! I worked so hard on it! So, do you want to just eat together, or why won't you accept my love? We have to get to know each other first. John said as much. No need to rush. Tempting as it might be for you. Why, John? Why? That's a really intense line of conversation. Can we just chat? Okay. Tell me things. I want to know everything about you. Well, I'm nothing special. That's not true. Let me see what to say. Despite himself, John found it easy to talk to her. He was sure he was sounding like an idiot, rambling about stupid, mundane topics, yet she listened to every word with rapt attention. It was bizarre to have someone actually care about his life. His father never had time. His friends were busy with their own things. Mrs. Smith, I'm going to assume, yeah, about her name, I'm just going to go with Smith. Mrs. Smith was just listening professionally, but Lizzie really cared. He knew that she wasn't well, that her obsession was probably a sickness. Probably a sickness. Not definitely a sickness, probably. I mean, every single little bit of troubling behavior that she displayed in order to display her affection to you, including burning down a fucking tree. Those are all just signs of a probable sickness. Oh fucking okay, John. Okay. The apathetic part of him didn't care. Was just happy to have someone paying attention to him. Even though it's the arsonist. Only after talking for a long time did he realize that he was talking about himself like a self-centered jerk. She didn't seem to mind, but he still felt guilty. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. I can do that sometimes. Could have fooled me. You weren't very chatty before Lizzie came into your life. Oh, don't apologize. I like listening to you talk. It's been pretty boring, though. I mean, you already know a lot about me. I want to know everything about you. I've been watching you a long time. I know all the facts, but I still don't know everything. That's a very oxymoronic statement. You know all the facts, but you still don't know everything. Which is it? I can't see inside your head. That's where the most important parts of John are, but I can't see them. I hope you don't decide to try to look literally into his head at some point. I wish there was a way to crack your head open. See all the thoughts inside. Yeah, you're following that train of thought exactly where I don't want you to. John swallowed uncomfortably. You can always just ask me what I'm thinking, okay? Okay. You're so nice, John. So, Lizzie, tell me about yourself. Oh, there's nothing to tell. I'm not important. I just want to listen to you more. Yes, but I want to know more about you. Don't you want to tell me? John is so kind. I don't deserve him. So, what about your parents? I live alone now. Neither of my parents wanted me anyway. I wonder why. I'm sure that's not true. They probably just... You don't have to make me feel better. I don't mind. You don't mind that your parents... My father never loved me anyway. And my mother's dead now. I'm sorry to hear that. My parents separated too. They never made it formal, but yeah, they're separated. Mom doesn't like to visit, and Dad is always at work, so it's like he's not really there. You mean they just leave you alone? How horrible. Oh, fucking great. Now she knows that you're pretty much alone at home all the time. Great fucking move on your part, John, letting her know that little bit of crucial information. How dare they just leave you like that? And now she's angry at them too. Oh, great. Clubs. Are you in any after-school clubs? When he wasn't pulling the conversation away from troubling topics, John actually found himself enjoying their talk. Or maybe he was just happy to be talking to someone and actually managing to pay attention to the conversation. He finished every bite of lunch without thinking about it. Given the way she stared at the last crumbs while he finished them, that was probably a good thing. Too late it occurred to him that she might have tampered with the lunch. Yet as she stared at him, so pleased that he had enjoyed it, John couldn't believe that she would do anything bad to him. Don't let the Stockholm Syndrome settle in, man. Please. She could very well still do stuff to you, if she deems it necessary. As soon as she had that thought, he remembered the tree and shivered involuntarily. Thank you for remembering the tree. After school, After school, John had barely gone out the door when he spotted Lizzie following him. It seemed as though she was stalking him at first, but when he made eye contact, she gave him a sweet smile and skipped forward. "John, let's walk home together." Do we live in the same direction?" "No, but don't worry. I'll walk back to my house later." Which meant she did know where he lived. He really needed to be more cautious, and he now knows you live alone for the most part. She, excuse me. Yeah, I'd be shaking in my boots right now if I were you. Maybe we could do something else. You remember our promise? Yes. Getting medicine and therapy has really helped me a lot. I know you don't really mean that, but whatever. Just say that. Just go. Roll with it, man. I hope it'll help you too. Now, I think the easiest thing to do would be to take you to Mrs. Smith. She could... No! No, I hate her! She's awful and she wants to take you away from me. Wait a second now, that's not true. She just wants to help. John is too nice. You can't see what kind of person she is. What? That she's prescription happy? I already picked up on that. I have to protect him. Whoa, Lizzie, wait. Calm down. If you don't want to talk to Mrs. Smith, we can do something else. Alright? Okay. So, probably best not to choose a woman. Probably, yeah. There had to be male Koitek pharmacists in town. Maybe one of them could prescribe something. You have to see an officially licensed doctor, psychiatrist, or whatever in order to get something licensed to somebody. You can't just ask any random pharmacist somewhere for medication here. That's highly illegal. Well, then again, I don't know if it's illegal to do things like that in certain other countries, but I'm pretty sure in most of them, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. I know definitely in the US of A, that's definitely true. But he really wasn't sure how that worked. He had been counting on Mrs. Smith to guide the process, but now he'd have to figure it out himself. Lizzie, I need to do a little research first. Is that okay? Okay, I'll follow you. Maybe it would be easier if I did it myself. No, I don't like that idea. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? You can bring another lunch. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, John. He hoped that medication would help her stabilize. After all, she'd be cute. Oh, great, he's even now starting to think she's cute. Stockholm Syndrome is definitely starting to settle in now. Already. It's working speedy wonders on this poor asshole. Why exactly was he doing this? He had told himself it was to help her and to make sure no one got hurt. But now he was hoping she could become normal and stay with him. Pathetic. He couldn't get a girlfriend normally, so he had to take advantage of some poor girl's obsession. If you want to be uncharitable about it, I guess yes. For now, it didn't matter. She really did need help, and he might be able to get her to it. It was just a question of how. The best way was probably to ask for advice, either from Mrs. Smith or a pharmacist. He could try to research some himself, though he doubted he'd be any good at it, and he suspected it wouldn't hurt to ask her if she was taking anything else or had allergies or something. Damn it, he should have done that earlier. Now it's too late to... John realized that she was still following him. Not too late after all. He shouldn't have been surprised. Okay, so asking her was still an option. But he only had so much time before he had to get home and do his schoolwork, so he needed to choose carefully. Okay, we could talk to Mrs. Smith, talk to a pharmacist, research in the library, talk to Lizzie directly, or just go home early. Well, I don't think talking to some random pharmacist is necessarily the best option. And doing research in the library would probably be even worse, relatively speaking, even though it would be better than nothing. I can't rely on Lizzie to answer me honestly about, allergies or anything relating to her health here. Going home early would be a very bad idea, I'm sure, so I guess I'm just gonna test my luck with Mrs. Smith. John headed back to school and discovered that Mrs. Smith was still in her office. She always put in long hours. For a moment, he saw at her desk before she had seen him. She looked older, more tired, just staring at the papers in front of her as she worked through them. When she spotted him, though, she immediately flashed a smile. "Hello, John. Did you forget something?" "No, I was just wondering if you could help me with something. I know a person who seems to need some medical help, but it really would be easiest if they came in to see me. I'm afraid one of the issues is paranoia, I guess. I don't think they'd be willing to do that, but I'd like to help. Well, it's dangerous to diagnose someone indirectly, but if you describe them, I can at least give you some basic advice." John described Lizzie's worrying behavior as best he could without identifying her. He wasn't sure why he was so careful. Maybe because she might come after him with a knife if he said too much. Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. When he finished, Mrs. Smith nodded thoughtfully. "It does sound like a serious case. You'd want to get a blood test done in case there's a serious chemical imbalance. Do you think there are any drugs that could help? Koitek has a line of very powerful new drugs that could certainly help, but the question is which one would be appropriate. You sound like such a freaking salesperson with this shit." I get a sense that there is a fixation to it. I wish they'd finished developing erozapam, but I guess it's too early for that. No, I suggest one of two choices. Nilazine or Yandequil? Yandequil? Was that supposed to be a play on yandere? I never heard of either of those before. They wouldn't be at all appropriate for treating your condition. Or most conditions, honestly. They're very experimental. You're seriously recommending something very experimental for an indirect diagnosis? Are you fucking insane? Yondequil is a sedative and antipsychotic, while nilazine promotes focus and clear thinking. I'm not sure which one would be right. A decision like that should really be made by a medical professional. Are you sure I can't help directly? No, he'll be fine. Thanks, Mrs. Smith. A sedative and antipsychotic. maybe it would sedate her to some degree, but maybe the other one might also make her might clear up her thinking in a way that would make her more dangerous. I'm not sure. Stepping out onto the street, John glanced at his watch and decided he had some more time to research his options. Let's talk to the pharmacist next, so we can ask about these drugs. John explored the part of town where he thought he remembered a Koi Tech pharmacy. It turned out his memory was right. It was staffed by a male pharmacist. The middle-aged man gave him a perfunctory nod and listened patiently enough as John described Lizzie's symptoms without mentioning her directly. I'd recommend Paxitine or Serozine. Either one could... No, that's not enough. Excuse me. Young man, I don't think I'm on Paxitine. This isn't that simple of a problem. I'm worried she might hurt someone. I see. Is there something you should tell me, young man? No, I just want to help. You should, honestly, be honest here. I wish someone had made me get some help earlier. I want to be that person for her. If the condition is serious, I do have 2 suggestions. You need a blood test to prescribe either one, though. What do you suggest? Both of them, then. Again. Either Nilazine or Yandequil. Nilazine is better if the problem is mental. Yandequil if the problem is emotional. Unfortunately, it was probably both. I've heard about those. Guess they must be good if you recommend them too. The problem is going to be convincing her that it's in her best interest to take them. Not many people your age would go to so much trouble for a classmate. You're a good kid. Strangely, the man's words actually made John feel better. Maybe he really was doing the right thing with all this. Only one way to find out, man. It was getting late, and John realized he needed to get home quickly if he wanted to have time for his homework. On his way back, he was sure that Lizzie was following him, but couldn't get a clear look at her. At least it was only one more day until the weekend. Friday passed faster than John had expected. Lizzie was nearby at all times, and they ate lunch together, but things were almost normal. Almost. Just when he started to get comfortable, she would give a giggle that went on a little too long, or slide a hand toward where she hid her knife, or respond far more enthusiastically than she should. I'm getting nervous here. Was it really bad of him to think she was really cute despite all that? Yeah, I would say so. She could be nice if she wasn't so, well, psychotically insane. But John hated it when his friend suggested he could be fun if he wasn't depressed. I don't think your depression and whatever she's got are even remotely comparable. Just saying. And that thought left an ugly knot in his stomach. Well, it wasn't long now. Maybe she could get some real help. He made it through his class, almost slept through his session with Mrs. Smith, and then headed home. John finished his homework and chores as fast as he could and went to sleep. Going out in public always drained him, and he wanted to have enough energy for the weekend. He woke up too early, eyes gritty and head still mired in half-remembered dreams. John got up to get a drink and happened to glance out the window. Hi, Lizzie! Lizzie was standing outside his house with a huge smile on her face. Yep, I knew it. After staring at her for a moment, John groaned and went back to bed. You're just going back to fucking bed? Good God, man. You really are something. The second time he woke up, the sun had already risen. He felt a little better, but not much. Normally he would stay at home all weekend, but he couldn't do that if he wanted to help Lizzie. She was still standing outside his house, in exactly the same place with exactly the same cheerful expression. God almighty, you really are in it deep, man. John brushed his teeth, got dressed, combed his hair. He realized that he was acting like he was getting ready for a date. A date with death, maybe? He wondered how intense she'd be if he had accepted her confession. Or was she worse this way? Well, at least he was going to go out with a cute girl. Yeah, okay. She may be cute, but we're just going to ignore all the other issues with her. And just focus on how cute she is. You know, when she doesn't have the doll eyes of unhappiness, the psychotic grin on her face, and flashing that knife of hers. He hadn't done that since middle school, and those were childish relationships. Of course, this was the only way he could get a date. Pathetic. Finishing his preparations, John headed outside. He hadn't noticed from his house, but Lizzie had gone dressed up for the occasion. He had never seen her outside her school uniform, and it made him hesitate for a moment. She'd obviously put effort into making herself look good, and she did. It would have been nice, if not for how it made him worry about the level of importance she was attaching to the day. As soon as Lizzie saw him, her smile became even brighter than it had been while waiting. John, I'm ready. I'm sure you've been ready all night. Good morning, Lizzie. Did you sleep all right? Oh, I didn't sleep. Let's go. She's even sleep deprived. This is probably definitely not going to end well at all. She practically dragged him down the street, apparently heading for the bus station. Yet instead of looking forward, her gaze was fixed behind her, on him. Do you have a plan, John? This is our first date. It needs to be perfect. Shit. He should have known she'd treat it this way. It wasn't like he hadn't had enough time. He used to be good at planning. What was wrong with him? Depression? Other than clinical depression. God, he was such a mess. You won't really get any argument from me at this point. Alright, he had to think. He used to be able to think on his feet. He could do this. So, I want to deal with the medication issue first so the rest of the day can be fun, right? Sure. Whatever you want. If we get a blood test, we'll need to wait a while. I was thinking we could get the test first, then eat breakfast, then get the results. That should give us the entire rest of the day. That's such a great plan. Let's hurry. John was glad to hear her respond so happily, but wondered if she would have said that no matter what he told her. Probably. They took a bus across town to the furthest pharmacy and ordered a standard Koitek sampling. He'd been nervous that Lizzie might react poorly to the needle, but she just smiled sweetly at him while they took a bit of her blood, then hopped back up. Look, the Band-Aid has little kitties on it. It's so cute. You want to eat something now then? Yes! They walked to a nearby bakery, and he bought them a pair of pastries. One of the only advantages of his workaholic father was that he had a decent amount of spending money. Lizzie held hers in both hands and began cheerfully nibbling on the end of it. She stared at him while she was doing it, but otherwise she looked ordinarily cute instead of scarily cute. Nom nom nom. I didn't know you could act silly. Hehe. I don't hear you laugh very often. You usually look so sad, and that makes me sad too. And like that, his good mood crumbled. I know. I'm always ruining everything. I don't know why anyone stays near me when I just... No! Lizzie took his pastry and stuffed it in his mouth to shut him up. You're not depressing at all, John. Just being around you makes me feel warm inside. I just want to see you smile more. When you smile, I feel like maybe everything will be alright. His attempt to talk around the pastry made Lizzie giggle, which made him laugh, which just set off a vicious cycle. After a fit of coughing, he had lost half his pastry but regained his good mood. Good for you, I guess. It had been a long time since an emotional downturn hadn't sent him spiraling toward depression. Lizzie grinned at him and he smiled back at her. All at once, he felt guilty for trying to convince her to take medication. Who was he to tell her what to do? Don't doubt yourself on this now. Please. Honestly, you're approaching this in a relatively good fashion here. You need to at least find out if she has anything wrong with her chemically speaking, you know? Worse, was he manipulating her obsession like this? It was only to help her, but did that make it any better? Yes, it makes it better! Because you are trying to help. Well, also make sure that you stay alive and don't drive her to kill you or somebody. The thoughts troubled him, but they remained in the back of his mind as they finished eating, talking lightly. But then they were finished, and it had been a while since the test. It was time to go back. Let's go get the results, okay? Will John think differently about me? No. I just want to find a way to help you, okay? Okay. She answered cheerfully, but something in the lightheartedness they had shared was gone, and it wasn't coming back. Swallowing, John steeled himself and walked with her back to the pharmacy. Lizzie slowed near the entrance and shuffled backward. I'll stay here. You can bring me what I need, okay? What are you up to? Okay. No problem. Inside, he found the pharmacist writing something on a clipboard. When he spotted John, he immediately frowned. You're alone. I suppose that's for the best anyway. We needed to talk. Oh boy, it's something serious. Is something wrong? She's not sick, is she? It isn't that kind of test. It only takes a snapshot of a person's current condition. Is your friend going through a difficult time right now? Well, I mean, maybe a little. These are some extraordinary numbers. Most people only see those briefly, during the worst days of their lives. Take care of her until things pass, alright? Okay, like what numbers are we talking about exactly? Context, please. There's something else I have to ask. It won't be comfortable, but it's necessary. Have you ever gotten any sense that she might hurt herself or anyone else? Yup! No, I can't imagine her doing anything like that. Don't lie, you fucking idiot! The lie was out of his mouth before he had even consciously decided to lie. John regretted it immediately, yet now it was too late to contradict himself. The pharmacist grunted and looked over his papers. Well, keep a close eye on her. Even the gentlest person could be capable of violence under conditions like these. Is it really that bad? I thought she seemed better lately. No, there must be some recent trauma she hasn't told you about. I'm certain of it. I can believe that. I mean, someone with numbers like these regularly, they would be completely incurable. Insane, probably, and definitely a threat to society. Well, you heard the man. If it's normal for her to have whatever number she has, there's only one thing you gotta do. For everybody's sake, including hers. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to imply anything. I'm sure she'll work through things and go back to normal soon. So, can you prescribe anything? I can give you 2 weeks of either Yondequail or Nilazine. That should get her over the rough patch. Just 2 weeks? Can you prescribe more? Not without a much more extensive evaluation. But like I said, that's all you'll need. I'm sure she'll recover soon. I really should be asking her directly, but in her present condition, I think it'd be safer to bend the rules and let you act like a family member. Oh, God. You really shouldn't bend the rules with this shit. So, which one do you think would be best for her? Oh, shit. I guess Yondequail would... Okay, so she has high numbers. So, and Yondequail is meant to act like a sedative, so maybe they would bring these numbers down? Because Nilazine might end up not doing that at all, and who knows how it could react. But then again, don't know for sure how she could react to Yondequail either. Fuck it, I'll just try it. 2 weeks of Yondequail coming up. Try to help her rest, okay? Yeah, okay. Heading outside, John handed the bag to Lizzie. He had pushed pretty hard to get to this point, but he would never force her to take the medication. His father had used to talk like he didn't have a choice about depression medication, practically threatened to force feed him. John refused to do that to anyone else. But Lizzie didn't make an issue of it at all. Smiling at him, she opened the bag, shook out one of the pills, and swallowed it without even taking a drink. She'd given the label a careful look, though. Okay. I hope you can love me now, John. Lizzie. No, I never meant anything like that. Please don't. That didn't taste bad at all. So can we go on for a date now, John? Can we? He wanted to go back to what she had said, reassured that he meant nothing wrong by it, but his words stuck in his mouth. Maybe on some level he did mean to force her. Maybe he was repeating everything that had been done to him. Maybe so, John, but again, I want to remind you, your depression and whatever she's got, I don't think are even remotely comparable. But we obviously won't know that for sure unless we could somehow convince her to get a full evaluation. But with Lizzie smiling at him like that, he couldn't fall too far into depression. Instead, John smiled back and gestured for her to follow. Without any great ideas, John thought they should go to the park. Their town had a pretty nice park, and it was usually empty this time of day. His friends always said that a movie was the best first date, but he suspected they mostly wanted to try to cop a feel. Besides, he was worried Lizzie would end up watching him instead of the movie. That would most likely happen, I'm sure. In the park, Lizzie happily skipped along the paths, often looking back at him, but at least looking at a lot of other things. As he watched, he realized that she was definitely more stable than usual. She stayed cheerful and sweet, without any threats of violence. How fast is this shit supposed to work, exactly? Could it really be the Yondequail? With him, the vaccine had taken weeks to work, and whether or not it actually helped had been really unclear. Then again, Lizzie was her own case. Of course, it took more than medicine to cure a serious condition. He knew that all too well. As Mrs. Smith had said, therapy was also an important component of recovery. Hers had certainly helped him a lot. The third main component was a social support network. And there, he completely failed to take her advice. He still spent most of his time alone or in meaningless old relationships. But hey, now he was walking in a park with a girl his age. Maybe things were looking up. For once in his life, things went his way. Lizzie was happy to eat fast food for lunch and didn't even try to feed him anything. Afterward, he was pretty much out of plans and Lizzie didn't want to stop. Fortunately, she was happy to drag him around town to see random things. In a way, he was grateful for that. He had spent all his energy for making decisions during the morning. It was easy to just glide along in her wake. In that way, she was a good match for him. When the sun started setting, John was actually surprised. Had a day really passed by that quickly? He could barely drag himself through a lot of weekends. This was a welcome change. Holy shit, is that John? With a girl? Oh, fuck. Hey guys. Is that the crazy chick you told me about? Number one, it's kind of rude to talk like that in front of the person you're insulting. And number two, shut the fuck up if you know what's good for you. Seriously, you don't know what you're messing with. Oh yeah, that's definitely her. Are you that desperate, John? Oh fuck, this is not gonna go well. Given how much of a sad sack he's been lately, I'm pretty sure he is. Do any of you have girlfriends? That shut them up. You guys talk so much shit. Just leave Lizzie out of it, okay? Oh, fuck you, John. If she wasn't crazy, you could never get a girl as cute as her. She is pretty hot. I don't get why she's with you. Yeah, this really doesn't make any sense. Aw, John, are you going to cry? Better not, or she'll realize how pathetic you are. What did you ever see in these dicks, John? With friends like these, who needs enemies? His positive mood was completely gone. He knew he should check to see how Lizzie was taking the mocking. But it was the most he could do to not fall into a mire of self-hatred. As always, he felt like he should be stronger than this, less emotionally fragile, and that just added to his self-hatred. If it had been anyone else, he might have crashed completely. But he knew these guys, and he was at least familiar with their attitudes. John pulled himself together and faked a smile at them. Sounds like sour grapes to me. You all have fun with each other, okay? Come on, Lizzie. Let's get out of here. They scoffed, but he didn't care. Taking her hand, he walked as fast as he dared out of the alleyway. When they were a safe distance away, he finally glanced at Lizzie and shivered. Her eyes were staring intensely at nothing, and she was gnawing on one knuckle. Was there blood running down her finger? Yeah, I think it's a good thing you got her away from them when you did. Abruptly, she squeezed his hand and swept both her hands behind her back and smiled at him. That was really sweet of you, John. You're always so nice. Don't let those guys bother you. They say lost stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. I'm not sure she's believing you. Is your finger okay? It looked like... I'm okay, John. Don't worry. Well, should we just keep going? Okay. But they hadn't gone far before John realized that he couldn't follow up on that. He had pulled himself together long enough to walk away, but now he had nothing left. It was all too much. He wasn't usually outside and in public this much, and though being with Lizzie wasn't bad, he wasn't stable enough for this much interaction. John? Are you okay? I'm tired. I think I need to go home. Is something wrong? Did I do something wrong? He could hear the tremor in her voice. Knew she needed affirmation, but the apathy was choking him to death. He had no energy for anyone else. No energy for anything but getting back home, curling up and wishing he was dead. For the love of God, man, just squeeze whatever energy that you need to just to give her affirmation. Just do that, if nothing else. Somehow he said goodbye, found the bus, and got all the way back home. The events passed like he was suffocating in gauze, the world around him too unreal to have any effect. Maybe he should have reassured Lizzie. Oh God, you didn't do it. But it didn't matter. He was an idiot for thinking he could help her. Nothing he did mattered. This feels like as though I'm on the path to a wrong end now. Sunday was a miserable slog through every second. John gave up on accomplishing anything whatsoever, and just lay in bed feeling worse about himself. He fell asleep early and woke up in the early morning. Not feeling better. That was impossible after a day of wallowing in himself, but suddenly his energy was back. And he needed it, because he hadn't accomplished anything he needed to do over the weekend. He'd set to working feverishly on Monday's homework. But by the time he headed to school, his eyes were gritty and his good mood was gone. But he was ready. High functioning. John sighed and headed to school. He was actually shocked not to see Lizzie, not even watching him from a distance. That concerns me. What is she doing right now? Where is she? But after that weekend, it would be awkward to hang out with his friends, so he ended up spending most of the day alone. At lunch, he decided he might as well go up to the roof again, and he found Lizzie already there. There you are. Are you doing okay? Is the medication doing its thing like it should be? Is it stabilizing you? Is it stabilizing you any? Stabilizing you any? Hi, Lizzie. I'm sorry if I was a jerk on Saturday. No, you're not at fault. I am. I don't like where this is going already. Wait, what? part of me is gone now. It was dangerous, but it was part of me. What do you mean exactly? She stood up and looked at him, and he realized that she was standing at the very edge. Oh, fuck. She's about to jump. The last time they had stood there, their positions had been reversed, and he had hoped that wasn't a bad omen. All I want is to be with you, John. For us to be together. I would do anything to make that happen. Anything. But I don't think I could hurt someone. Not anymore. It feels so strange. Medication can make you feel strange for a while, but you don't like violence, do you? Do you want me to be different? If I were to be honest, yes, I want you to be different because I would want you to be different because the way you are now is, number one, not healthy for you. Number two, not healthy for everybody around you. And number three, stability tends to make a person happier. Speaking from my own experience. He knew he should answer, but his throat felt so dry, and his mind was numb. I'll change myself for you, John. If that's what it takes for us to be together. I'll change however you need me to. Is there a part of me you don't like? I'll get rid of it. I'll tear it out. I'll cut away right now. Yeah, I'm really starting to wonder if the okay, unless it's a slow medication, like you need days to weeks on end for it to really take effect, I think maybe I should have chosen something different. Or maybe even nothing at all, as crazy as that would be. John knew that he needed to say something to reassure her, stop her from going down that self-destructive path, but he couldn't bring himself to speak. You're making this worse by keeping silent. Instead, he stepped forward and embraced her. Lizzie gave a soft gasp and wrapped her arms around her torso. But she pushed into him, her head nuzzling against his chin. Oh, what did that say? Just stay with me, okay? Please promise me you won't ever leave. He nodded, and she gave a happy squeal. But his mouth was still far too dry to speak. On Tuesday, John and Lizzie ate lunch together as if everything was normal. And in some bizarre way, it really was. Perhaps due to the medication, she seemed so much stable than before. Yeah, she may seem stable, but what I'm really concerned about is what's going on inside her head. She was sweet and kind at all times, always considerate and affectionate. Yet there was the occasional moment where she still seemed a little obsessed. The slightest positive comment from him would be interpreted as a sign of their destined love. But all in all, John was happier than he had been in a long time. His classmates even stopped messing with him about Lizzie, though he wasn't sure if it was because she seemed normal or because they were afraid of her. Yet he wasn't. Not really. He had a hard time believing that anyone could really love him, yet it seemed that Lizzie truly did. If anything, he worried that he could never love her back that intensely. What do I even say at this point? He had an appointment scheduled with Mrs. Smith on Wednesday, yet for once when he walked into her office, he didn't feel like he desperately needed it. Ready for your session today, John? Actually, I'm feeling really good. Maybe we should skip today's? You should know better than that. If you stop the treatment that's making you feel better, you might have another relapse. No, you're right. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just lie down and take a load off. So, how have you been doing lately? Well, I'm okay, I guess. That's better than most weeks. So it looks like you're making progress. By the way, I've seen you pass with a girl. Are you two dating? Uh-huh. Yes, we're dating, maybe something like that. No, we're just friends. No, she's sort of stalking me. It's complicated. No, she's sort of stalking me would be the most honest option out of the whole thing. But I guess it's complicated would also be honest as well, so... I'm gonna go with it's complicated. Well, I know how things can be at your age. But I thought I should ask. You've avoided relationships before now. I also have to ask another question. Have the two of you been intimate? Thank God, no. What? How can you ask that? I'm not teasing you. This is a very serious question. You better not be leading up to giving me a lecture about safe sex or abstinence or anything. So, should I take that as a no? Yes. I mean... No, we haven't done anything like that. It's good to hear that you're at least expressing interest. Koitek got back to me about Arozapam, and it's still decades from viability, so we don't have a solid option for libido issues. Can we talk about something else? Anything else? Sorry to make you uncomfortable, John, but I do need to be concerned about your welfare in all respects. To that end, I need to ask one more question. Has the girl ever displayed any strange behavior? Erratic tendencies? What kind of behavior? Well, for example, fixations bordering on serious OCD, maybe violent tendencies, mood swings. Those are pretty specific symptoms. Is something wrong? No, just covering the bases. You know something, don't you? I can't believe you think that kind of thing about Lizzie. I'm not being rude, John. This is important. You see, I looked up that girl's records, and to my surprise, I actually knew her mother. The dead one, right? You know Lizzie's mother? Yes. Abby Doss took part in one of our early clinical trials. She was one of the women who had to be removed from the study when we learned that they had lied about being pregnant at the time. Holy shit. She was pregnant with Lizzie at the time while she was undergoing clinical trials with all manner of experimental drugs. That might explain Lizzie's unstable mental health. That she's probably had this her whole freaking life. It would also explain the numbers that the pharmacist managed to uncover. And just like that, a big, giant, whopping puzzle piece falls into place. Plus, I thought she displayed addictive tendencies. I understand she began abusing prescription painkillers later in life, too. The poor girl probably had a hard childhood. So anyway, I just hope that the girl turned out alright. Any drugs taken while someone is in utero can have permanent long-term impacts, so I'm glad the girl turned out normal. Oh boy. Moving on. You seem so much better. I assume the issue of emotional grayness took care of itself? Yeah, of course. Mrs. Smith seemed so positive, he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. Because despite the general improvement in his life, that aspect of it had not. Lizzie was a single spot of color in his world, but the rest was even grayer than before. The rest of their session passed in a gray blur. When it was over, John was in a strange mood. He had felt a little better, but not much. Usually after a therapy session, he floated in an empty tranquility, but now his mind was racing. He impatiently sat through his next class, but his mind was on what Mrs. Smith had said about Lizzie's mother. Could that be part of the reason for her instability? Probably, yeah. When he had a free period, John headed straight to the library and tried to look up past incidents. It was hard to find information on Koitek's old trials, but when he eventually gave in and looked at the microfilm, he actually found some relevant articles. He knew that Lizzie had been born in 1972, so he was able to skim back to around the time she had been born. He actually found the birth announcement in the local paper easily, but for the rest he was left searching aimlessly through shitty local articles. And then, all at once, it was easy. There was a series of articles that took his research from a boring whim to something that had him on the edge of his seat. Apparently before it was called Koitek, the company had been called Pharmavax. They rebranded after a series of drug recalls had ruined their reputation. Oh, great. Drug recalls ruining their reputation to the point where they had to rebrand themselves. Oh, God. This is... I can already see where this is all going, and it's not going to be pretty for everybody involved. John sat back, unable to read any further. Was that really the explanation? It felt so cheap. It was easy to presume that Lizzie's mother had been involved in one of the recalled Pharmavax trials, and her unborn child must have suffered the consequences. That would be the case. That does seem to be a likely explanation. Could that really have unbalanced Lizzie this way? Well, we don't have anything else to really go on, so unless we can find out more, then what else? Again, what other options do we have to look at? If so, that meant that this was no phase she was going through. If her early development had been altered, she was probably this way for life. Which is why you should find somebody else, if that's the case. I don't think it's worth it, man. Believe me, I feel bad for her too, but you gotta think about yourself as well. Do you honestly want to deal with that? Indefinitely? Yet the second emotion he felt was anger. Anger that Mrs. Smith or anyone else could think Lizzie was just some freak chemical accident. Yeah, but that's not exactly wrong, is it? That is essentially, yeah, it may be upsetting to you, but again, yeah, is it wrong? So far I have no reason to think otherwise. It was too much like the scorn that had been heaped on him for his depression. You weren't born with your depression as far as I'm aware. We're talking about someone who could have been impacted in a very serious way in the womb while their mother was going through clinical trials with drugs that had to most likely be recalled. This isn't comparable. Whatever her problems, Lizzie was a person who deserved respect. Help, but respect before anything else. Depression quickly followed on the heels of his anger. Unable to deal with more of those thoughts, John just walked out without even replacing the microfilm. He drifted through the rest of the day, still stewing over what he'd learned. At times, he could almost convince himself this was a good thing. If drugs had unbalanced Lizzie, maybe they could balance her again. She could almost imagine them together, helping each other, maybe even getting married. Whoa, man, why are you... Ugh. It must be some kind of Stockholm syndrome. It's gotta be. When she passed him in the hallway, her eyes lit up. Not in mere elation, but of a burning intensity. And in that moment, John was sure that Lizzie couldn't be cured. The question was, did he want her to be? I would hope that would be a yes. For everybody's sake. Including Lizzie's. So she can lead something closely resembling a normal life. Several days later, as they were leaving after school, Lizzie caught up with him, an odd look on her face. John, I'm so happy. Really? I spent so long just watching you, imagining what it would be like to say hello, to hear you say my name, for you to look at me. Now we can actually talk like this. It's like a dream. A wonderful dream I never want to end. I'm happy I met you too, Lizzie. This past week has been fun. So, how is the Yondequail working for you? No unpleasant side effects? It's wonderful. Thank you so much for giving it to me. Well, I hope we can find you some more once this dose runs out. Some drugs you can renew week to week, but I don't know about this one. It could be a pain. Oh no, I wouldn't want you to go to any trouble for me. But it's helping, right? I want you to be able to have more if you want it. That's so sweet, but it's not necessary. Now I understand how I need to change. I don't need it anymore. What? What? Before, when I confessed to you, you didn't give me a clear answer. Will you now, John? Do you like me? Lizzie, Yes, I like you. But I want proof we're more than just friends. Can we go somewhere together? Somewhere romantic? They might as well. People already thought of them as dating, and she seemed so sweet for so long. What was the worst that could happen? Oh, so much, you idiot. So much. Please? We have a lot of options, considering that we have all next week off. But we don't have to wait that long. How about we plan something for Friday night? I don't have a car to pick you up, but I can take you to a nice restaurant. Ah, yes. Good, then. It's a plan. Friday. She would still have a day or two of medication left on Friday. John figured she would stay stable. Maybe the date would leave her happy enough that she'd change her mind about staying on her meds. No matter what mistakes her mother made, maybe Lizzie could be stable with the right treatment. John really thought this could work out between them. Honestly, though, I can't believe your freaking mother actually volunteered for clinical medical trials while she was pregnant with you. Like, what the fuck, man? It's fucking horrible. Wow, John, this place is so nice. As nice as a place they'll let as nice a place as they'll let high school kids in with only a few days of reservation, anyway. When I asked for a romantic place, I never dreamed it would be this romantic. I'm not dressed up enough for this. This is the kind of place you take someone to propose. Just so it's clear, I'm not going to propose. Aww. Well, remember that this is a good place for it. John could only hope that place would be nice. All he knew about it was that his parents said it was nice back when they were together. They entered, and Lizzie was delighted by everything. The decor, the menu, the lighting, the food. Or maybe she was really just delighted with one thing. The event itself. Fortunately, the staff seemed to find her adorable instead of disturbing, so John found himself relaxing. Even when they were just chatting idly, Lizzie was nice to be around. Midway through the meal, he'd realized that Lizzie was resting her hand on the table. She wasn't necessarily inviting it, but if he stretched, he thought he could put his hand on top of hers. Oh, man. This is stupid, what I'm gonna select. Lizzie's eyes went wide when he touched her. For a moment, just staring as if she couldn't believe it. But after a moment, she gave him a brilliant smile and laced her fingers through his. Okay, he hadn't meant to do that, but John decided he could just awkwardly hold her hand while they ate. That certainly seemed to be Lizzie's intention. She actually wasn't getting a lot eaten, since she didn't talk with her mouth full and listened raptly whenever he talked, but at least she seemed to be having fun. After a while, Lizzie patted her mouth with her napkin and sighed in satisfaction. She didn't let go of his hand, though. That was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it was all really good. Not the food, the date! Oh, but I made you talk so much, you hadn't gotten to eat very much. That's okay, No, I'll be quiet and watch you while you eat. So, Lizzie, how about you tell me where you live? Oh, it isn't too special. Just a house. Do you live with someone? I know not your parents, but some other relative? No, it's just me. Abby inherited the house, I think, and she didn't manage to sell it off when things got bad. Abby? My mother. She was an awful woman. I don't want to talk about her. It's a nice enough house, I suppose. Abby wrecked a lot of it, but I've been able to repair it with money from James. Your father, I assume. Your father? I guess, but he never cared enough to meet me. Abby always complained about him, and the checks don't always come. Child support payments, then. But I don't want to talk about all that. It's all horrible, isn't it? People who can't even pretend to be in love just tear into each other. But that's not what I want. Not at all. When I fell in love with you, I knew it would last forever. So said everyone who ever fell in love at first sight, I think. Wouldn't it be nice for us to get a house together? Maybe even build one? Oh, so many choices, I can't decide. I want to be something we choose together. Not something we inherit. Someplace where we want to live together forever. Maybe a big house. Big enough that I can have lots of nice windows, but also rooms inside where no one can see us. And maybe a fountain? You definitely have no small ambitions. That's for sure. Lizzie giggled and squirmed in her seat as if she couldn't contain herself. Her fingers in his grip gripped so tightly that it almost hurt. But now I'm just saying things. None of those things really matter. The only thing in our house that I'll care about is you. It was long as he had yet gotten her to talk about herself or her goals. And while I was still pretty focused on him, he didn't mind hearing the details. It's a very nice image, Lizzie. I'm glad you think so. And you finished your food. This has been wonderful, but can we go now? Can we? Only slightly worrying about what she was thinking, John paid the bill, trying not to wince, and they left the restaurant. They got into the bus, and Lizzie never let go of his hand the entire time. He began to wonder when she was going to actually let go, and that was when she leaned her head against his shoulder. This feels so nice. Yes, it does. Really? You enjoyed tonight? I did. It's not often that I hear you talk about things you want, other than me. It felt ridiculous to say that, like some kind of boast. And a second later, he realized that it might just be exacerbating her problem, or at least making light of it. But Lizzie just considered his words thoughtfully, then gave a slow nod. I've always wanted to know everything about you, John. But I'm glad you want to know about me. John, would you like me less if I stopped taking the medicine? Shit, what was he supposed to say to that? John desperately racked his brain for a good answer. Gotta think of a good one, man. I like you, Lizzie. I like the person you really are. Is the person you are now the person you really are? What do you mean? I mean, when I get depressed, I don't feel like myself. Medicine might change me, but it's just to change me back to myself. But it's not who you naturally are. Does that matter? I mean, we get to choose who we are. Otherwise, we're not really people, just animals. So, who are you, Lizzie? You seem like a nice person now that I've gotten to know you. A nice person with very eccentric tendencies, shall we say. Is this not who you want to be? Did you feel better before taking the medicine? But you liked me tonight? Tonight was wonderful, but I'm not suggesting I didn't like you before. Silly John, don't worry about it. I love you, no matter what. Now, would you like to see my house? Are you going to answer his question as to whether or not you were happy before taking the medication? John froze, not sure how to take the question. Then again, Lizzie had already seen his house. Maybe she just wanted to open up. He said he'd like to hear her talk about herself after all. If she was actually offering to let him into her life a little more, it would be stupid of him to turn it down. Sure, Lizzie. I'd love to see it. Oh, I'm sure you will. Absolutely sure. Why don't I find that thought more comforting? He planned to take her to her stop, just to be gentlemanly, But now John found himself getting off at the same place. Lizzie eagerly set off from the bus stop, looking back to make sure he was following. In the end, she led him to a small house. It was a cozy little thing, much warmer and more pleasant than he'd expected. Here it is. Huh, it's cozy. You don't need to flatter my house, silly. All that matters is that we'll be there. She led him inside and showed him around, though it was a very strange and erratic tour. He wondered if this was the first time she ever showed someone inside her home. The inside of the house was less cozy than the outside. Not because of the house itself, but because of how bare it was. A few rooms looked as though they'd been used, but the rest looked like they were out of a catalog. It mimicked a house, but it didn't look like a place where anyone lived. The only thing that didn't match the catalog image was a heavy metal door off the side hallway. A heavy metal door? Lizzie didn't make the slightest reference to it or even seem to notice it existed. I don't like that door. This picture. Is it your mother? Oh, that. I forgot I even had that. Lizzie didn't seem to care, but John was curious enough to pick up the frame and look closer. He was surprised to find his hand immediately coated in dust. That had to be years of dust. How could Lizzie have lived here for so long and never even disturbed a picture sitting on a table like this? In any case, he could see where Lizzie got her good looks from. But other than that, she and her mother didn't look very much alike. There was something in Lizzie's eyes and posture that was just lacking in her mother. Yeah? She was on the beach with some man. Neither of them looked like they were enjoying themselves. Maybe he was imagining things, but he could practically see the growing enmity between them. Absurdly, his mood began to decline. It was just a random relationship from people he didn't know. It had nothing to do with him. Yet the idea of people producing a child from a relationship they obviously cared so little about sent him into a spiral. John, you shouldn't be sad. Our house wouldn't have anything like this in it. Huh? No, I was just... Don't worry. I want to be around you every second of every day of forever. But I know that wouldn't work when we grow up. I can get a job. I'm good at lots of things. It'll be sad being apart, but we can call each other at work and send each other things. And when we get home and see each other again after so long, you'll feel so good. Her picture of the future actually sounded nice. Lived a little the cloud in his head. But he couldn't find a way to put that into words, and so he said nothing. Undeterred, Lizzie encouraged him into the living room and pushed him down onto the large couch. It hadn't seen much use, but it was free from dust and gloriously soft. You stay here, okay? Give me a moment to change out of this. Just don't change into something scary, please. John swallowed and stayed where he was. He didn't have a lot of experience, but he heard his friends talk about their exploits. He thought of it was lies. But was there something to what they said? If Lizzie came out wearing lingerie or something else crazy, he didn't know what he would do. He honestly didn't. If I had to guess, you're gonna stick your dick in crazy. Part of him that had been asleep for a long time liked the idea, fantasized about what might happen. Another part of him was incredibly nervous to even consider the idea of being closer to her. He couldn't keep sitting there. His nerves would destroy him. Instead, John got up and began to look around the house more carefully. The dustiest part of the house seemed to have remnants of Lizzie's mother. At least he didn't think Lizzie would be into cheap little glass figurines. You probably shouldn't be in here. Opening one of the rooms, he discovered that it was an unused bedroom. He was about to go when he spotted another picture frame sitting beside the bed. Well, Lizzie looks off even as a kid. This one featured Lizzie as a child, sitting on her mother's lap. It struck him so strongly that he immediately went to look at it more carefully, not caring that his hand got even dustier. Lizzie's mother was glowing and obviously proud of her daughter, while Lizzie ignored her entirely. No, not just ignored her. There was a flat emptiness to her eyes, as if they weren't even related. It didn't seem to stop her mother in the picture, but the distance between them was agonizing. Why would anyone keep a picture like that, much less frame it? John stared at it a while longer, then sat down and left the room. The look Lizzie had been giving her mother. Those eyes shouldn't have belonged to a human child. John didn't want to think about it a second longer, so he rushed out of the room as fast as he could. Desperate for something to take his mind off that unpleasant thought, John looked around for anything else. The door next to the bedroom was jammed, but he wrenched it open and stared. The room was filled with pictures of him. Oh boy, you found her shrine of you. His yearbook photos, but also lots of pictures of him in class. Pictures she must have taken herself. Oh fuck. There were pictures of him sleeping in his own bed. Are you sure you want to get into a relationship with this? Seriously, John. I sure as hell wouldn't. For a moment he just stood there, trembling. Then John snapped back to his senses. He immediately stepped back and closed the door, trying not to make a sound. He told himself he shouldn't be so surprised. He knew she was obsessed, but it still shook him. He was inside his stalker's house. John? Yes? I just wandered off. I'm coming back. Good. There's something I want to show you. I don't like this. Oh shit, I definitely don't like this. John. Oh shit. What are you doing with that axe? You don't trust me, John. That makes me so sad. Clearly the medication isn't working at all. I should have chosen something different. You think I'm going to trust you when you're coming at me with an axe? I tried to be patient. I can't wait any longer. So I need to take matters into my own hands. Hold still, John. Run! 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 He ducked low and sprinted for the door, heedless of crashing against the wall. Don't run away. As he reached the front foyer, John dared to look behind him and saw that Lizzie was right on his heels, still smiling. This is what you get for not being honest with the pharmacist, man. You should have been honest. Hell, you should have even been honest with Miss Smith. They were telling you she's dangerous. He gave a strangled cry and tried to put everything he had into running, but it didn't matter. Lizzie kept pace with him and then slammed into the door, and then slamming into the door brought him up short. brought up him short. Oh shit, it's got blood on it. He groaned at the impact, and then he felt her axe go straight into his back. John cried out in pain, while Lizzie began crying. Why, John? You're the only thing I had. The only thing. She kept speaking through her tears, but each word was fainter and fainter. Soon all he could focus on was the metal of the axe so deep inside him. And when that sensation faded, there was nothing left. Oh, shit. Achievement unlocked. Unsurprising outcome. Yeah, true words. Hope glimmers stronger on another path. Restart the game for a better result. Well, I guess I'll have to do just that. Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised that that happened. But I guess we gotta try something different. So I guess what I'll try to do different first is maybe have her try the other medication first, and then just go from there. And hopefully we'll get a better result next time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Crimson Gray. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.